Their neighbor Obi and his wife Nneka shouted from the house, "Mama Bimpe, please spare the poor child." When their plea was not met, they came into the compound. Nneka gently pulled Remy away from Adesua. "Haba, Mama Bimpe, do you want to injure this child? It's okay." Finally, Adesua stopped. "Before she kills Bimpe, I will kill her first," she said, and walked away. Once upon a time, in a small village in Okuta, there lived a woman popularly called Mama Adisua. She was known for her striking beauty and elegance. Mama Adisua had two daughters, Remy the elder and Bimpe the younger. Remy was a reflection of her mother, graceful, poised, and with a quiet strength. Her skin, brown, clear as crystal and beautiful. She had the most beautiful laughter that echoed through the village like the sweetest melody. Bimpe, on the other hand, was a wild spirit. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, and her laughter was as infectious as the morning sun. She had inherited her father's adventurous spirit. You see, Remy was 18 years old. There were days she wished she didn't have to live with her mother. There were days she concluded that her mother, Adesua, was not her biological mother. Her mother loved and favored her younger sister, Bimpe, and hated her. It was a fact. She had admitted that several times. What Remy could not seem to understand was why her own mother would hate her with such a passion and would not even pretend about it. It had been that way for all she could remember. Even when Olu, their father, was alive, she treated her badly. The only good thing was that her father was there to protect her and to promise that Adesua did not hate her. She had remembered countless times asking her father why her mother hated her so much and what she did wrong to offend her greatly. Olu had kept reassuring her that it was not the case. When their father, Olu, fell ill, he knew his days were numbered. On his deathbed, he had whispered to Adesua, "Promise me, my love, that you will treat Remy better. She is our daughter, flesh of our flesh, and blood of our blood." Her mother had held his frail hand, her heart breaking as she promised. But their father's will had further complicated matters when he divided his property unequally. Most of it went to Remy, while Bimpe and Adesua received only a modest share. After the death of their father, things became worse. Remy and Adesua's already sour relationship became worse. Her mother's heart had become a hardened stone. Her only emotion toward her was bitterness. She saw her husband's will as a betrayal, a testament to his misplaced trust. The inheritance that should have been Remy's birthright now felt like a curse. Remy bore the weight of her mother's wrath with grace. She woke up before dawn to sweep the compound, fetch water, and prepare breakfast before anyone wakes up. Sometimes, her mother will stand by, watching with hawk-like eyes, ready to pounce on her for any mistake. Remy's steps grew heavier each day. Her shoulders stooped from the burden. She cooked, cleaned, and tended to the farm. All the while, Bimpe could blissfully care less. Adesua was unrelenting in her cruelty towards Remy. Sometimes she would starve her without reason, and Remy would watch as Bimpe devoured her portion, her stomach gnawing with hunger. There were days when she would cry bitterly, but she had learned that her cries only fell on deaf ears. Okuta was a small village. They had about 3 taps that served the whole village. For the past 2 days, the taps stopped flowing. The king had promised to work on them, but meanwhile, everyone had to go draw water from the village stream. Bimpe was an excellent swimmer. She loved going to the stream. Remy was afraid of water and could not swim. So one afternoon, they ran out of water in the house. Adisu asked Remy to go draw water from the stream. Remy pleaded with her mother to allow Bimpe go with her. No, Adisu snapped. Bimpe stays here. You go alone. As soon as Remy stepped onto the narrow path leading to the stream, Bimpe slipped out of the house and followed Remy, her excitement outweighing the fear of her mother's wrath. When Remy heard footsteps behind her, she turned to find her sister Bimpe right behind her. What are you doing here? Mama said she didn't want you to come with me. Relax, said Bimpe. Who's going to tell her? Please, Bimpe, go back home. I don't want to be punished today. Like I said, relax. She wouldn't know. Besides, I'm just going for a swim. Remy tried to persuade her sister to go back home, but Bimpe refused and went ahead of her. Remy gave up and continued on her way to the stream. At the stream, her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the empty bucket. She could not draw water from the edge of the stream because the water was dirty. So she stepped into the water, moving further to where the water was cleaner. Remy filled her bucket. As she tried to come out of the water, the sand drew her in. She struggled to hold on to her water and keep her balance as she moved. But before she knew what was happening, she was struggling to keep her head above water. Bimpe, on seeing her sister struggling in the water, swam to her rescue. She held onto her sister and dragged her out of the water. Remy sat on the sand, breathless, trying to process what had just happened to her, or what would have happened if Bimpe was not there. Bimpe had gone back into the water to get the bucket, which had long traveled far. She reached out, grabbed the bucket, filled it with water, and started to walk out. Unknowingly to her, her foot was caught on a hidden twine, a trap set by a mischievous villager to catch fish. She stumbled, her ankle twisting painfully. She immersed herself into the water in an attempt to free her foot. Moments later, she resurfaced to get some air. She tried to free herself 3 more times, but she couldn't. In no time, she became tired. Fortunately, 2 men came rushing into the water. They had heard Remy's cry for help and had come running to help. One of the men got into the water and tried to free her foot. After he did, he helped her out of the water. Bimpe coughed and spluttered, her lungs burning. You are lucky, said one of the men. Another minute and you would have been lost. The 2 men escorted them home. When they got home, the men explained what had happened. Adisu thanked the men for their help, and they went on their way. Adisu was furious. Without asking for explanation, she pounced on Remy and beat her thoroughly. You disobedient child, she yelled. I told you not to take my daughter along. Are you planning to kill her so that you can take her share of the inheritance too? Her fingers and fists moving very fast. Remy tried to move away from her, but her mother kept coming at her. Bimpe gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. She had never seen her mother so enraged. Their neighbor, Obi, and his wife, Nneka, shouted from the house, Mama Bimpe, please spare the poor child. When their plea was not met, they came into the compound. Nneka gently pulled Remy away from Adisu. Haba, Mama Bimpe, do you want to injure this child? It's okay. Finally, Adisu stopped. Before she kills Bimpe, I will kill her first, she said, and walked away. Remy sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. The pain of her mother's slap and blow echoed through her entire body. But deeper still was the ache of a daughter who longed for her mother's love. Bimpe had watched her mother in shock. She had never seen her so enraged. Was it the fear of losing a child? Or was it the pain of something else she had endured that she released on poor Remy? Thinking of it now, her mother had never really been nice to her older sister, Remy. Why is that? And she had been so blind and cared less for her sister and all she had been going through. She looked up to see her sister Remy huddled near the door. She went up to her and hugged her. I'm so sorry for everything you've had to go through, Remy. I'm so sorry. Both of them stayed there and just cried. That night, Bimpe sat down on a woven mat, her heart pounding as she prepared to confront her mother. Mama, why? Why do you treat Remy this way? It's not that simple, her mother replied. You won't understand. Then make me understand. Remy is my sister. Why do you hate her so much? Bimpe, there are secrets that weigh heavier than stones. Secrets that twist love into something unrecognizable. Bimpe's gaze bore into her mother's. Tell me, she whispered. Tell me why you hate Remy so much. Adisu looked at her daughter for a while and wondered how she had grown so fast. She thought of how matured she had become, and that maybe if she told her why, she would understand. She would understand why she had been so protective of her, why she feels such strong emotion of hate towards Remy. Your father, Olusoya, was a man of honor. He had fallen in love with Oge, an outcast, whose family found refuge in Okuta. His parents had disapproved, but their love burned brighter than the sun. Oge was pregnant, Adisu continued, her voice barely audible. By the time she gave birth, Olusoya had married me. But childbirth was cruel. It stole Oge's life, leaving behind a tiny infant. Your father made me swear an oath. He made me promise never to reveal the truth, to raise the child as our own. And so we did. We named her Remy, and she has grown up believing she was ours. Remy's fingers trembled. She had suspected it, but hearing it from Adisua's lips was a blade to her soul. She stepped out from behind the house, where she had been hiding and listening to their conversation, tears streaming down her face. She opened her mouth to speak, her voice full of emotion and barely sounding like hers. I always wondered why you hated me with so much passion. I knew somewhere in my heart that I wasn't yours. Why would a mother hate her daughter so much as you've hated me? I was just a baby, innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't ask to be born. Mama, I've loved you since I've known you. Why couldn't you just love me? I did nothing to you. Why? Bimpe's mind raced. Remy, her sister, was not her mother's biological daughter. The revelation was a storm, tearing through the fabric of their family. She stood up in an attempt to walk towards her sister, but Remy shouted, No! Stay away from me! I don't belong here. her whole body and voice shaking uncontrollably. She dashed off, out of the compound, into the streets, and into the night. Bibi made an attempt to run after her, but her mother stopped her. Don't worry, she'll be back. She has nowhere to go. Bibi turned to her mother in anger. How can you be so wicked? So heartless? She was practically your daughter. You raised her. If you didn't want her, you should have said so from the beginning. I am doing this for you, her mother yelled back. Don't you see? She's going to take everything away from us. Your father willed 3 plots of land to her and left us 1. Even this house we live in is willed to her. I can't believe you, Mama, Bimpe said. And I don't even think I know you anymore. She left her mother and walked inside. Remy's heart and legs raced as the truth settled like a heavy stone in her chest. The forest swallowed her. She ran, her feet stumbling over roots and falling leaves, the branches slapping her skin along where Adisu had inflicted. Her tears blurred the path ahead, and she honestly didn't care where it led, as long as it led her away from the pain. She stumbled into something. Her foot caught on the twine, and she fell, her breath knocked out of her. It was an excruciating pain, but not as bad as the pain she felt in her heart. She screamed as she struggled to sit up, realizing she had stumbled into a trap set to catch an animal. The pain radiated from her ankle. She tried to free herself, but the more she tried to maneuver the trap, the deeper it cut into her flesh. She stopped trying and just laid there weeping, asking for help. She laid there, and the thought of her mother, of the pain she had to endure, to be denied of a love desired, the pain of being referred to as an outcast. Slowly, she started to feel cold, and the darkness was all she could remember before she slipped into oblivion. Remy woke up 3 days later in a strange house. The owner was a young man named Tayo. He was a businessman who loved to hunt as a hobby. It was his trap Remy stepped into. You're awake, said a male voice. Remy looked up to see a male figure towering over her. Where am I? She asked. You're in my home, he replied. In Okuta? She asked. No, replied Tayo. You're in Okumeji. Okumeji was a neighboring village to Okuta. It was a much bigger village. What were you doing in the forest by that time of the night? Asked Tayo. Remy told him her story. Tayo felt pity for her. I'm so sorry for all you've had to go through, but running away from problems doesn't get it solved. You caught a bit of infection because your feet was in the trap for a long time. I've had the doctor look at it, and he has given you some antibiotics. As soon as you get better, I will take you home. No, please, pleaded Remy. I don't want to go back there. I want to stay here with you. As what? Asked Tayo. I can't keep someone's daughter in my house without their permission. She is not my mother, Remy shouted. Then she apologized immediately. I'm sorry. I don't mean to yell at you. Please, please, don't make me go back there. I promise you, Adesiwa will be more than happy I'm out of her hair. Tayo stared at her for a while. He felt pity for her and wished there was something he could do to help. Okay, he said, I will let you stay here for a while, but only long enough for you to figure out what you want to do next. Thank you, said Remy, grateful she didn't have to face Adesua again. At least, not yet.